Hi guys, welcome to the Alternative Podcast, number 22 we're on now. I've got a guest today, a fellow YouTuber, Alice. Alice, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name's Alessia. I'm from Canada. I have a channel. I just talk about kind of things going on, sometimes motivation stories, just things like that.
Yeah, we'll tag all of your details in the description below. Also, Aaron said it's episode 22, but it's not. It's episode 21.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, so let's get started with the pod. So, Alice, would you like to give us your thoughts on what's going on in Canada at the moment regarding censorship, Justin Trudeau, all the good stuff, the juicy stuff?
Okay, sure. So there's a few things happening here in terms of things that are kind of more in like the law and like legislation. First of one of them is actually Bill C11, which I made a video about as well. But basically, it was this law where it's like an online streaming act. So basically, it's where they want to kind of regulate what we see and make Canadians see more Canadian friendly content, whatever that's supposed to mean. And it might also change the algorithm so Canadian content is not promoted as much worldwide. So for us that make videos, we can be negatively affected by this. Now, I actually recently found out a few days ago that it actually passed and it likely might turn into law. And the person, I forgot what he is, like what he's in charge of. His name is Pablo Rodriguez. I think he's like, oh, it's not going to affect user content, but I personally don't believe that. I feel like it will affect us. And I'm concerned, and not a lot of people are speaking out about this because this is technically a censorship thing. And they think that maybe we are exaggerating it or this is like not true, but it's right there. And people have actually gone to parliament to speak about this. People have had petitions, but I guess they're not listening.
So you said the law's being passed. The bill's being passed.
Yeah, so they passed it. So now I think they have to just talk about it a little bit more and then they could actually implement this.
So the way they would have to implement something like that, it would need to be sort of rolled out to all of the big tech companies. Like it would.
Yeah, so they mentioned YouTube, Netflix. It's like an online streaming act, so it will affect all these platforms. And they said that they did something like this like years ago, but that was like before really the internet came out really and all that stuff. So there was like a first, a second, and third reading. So the bill was actually adopted at the third reading, which happened like 5 days ago. And basically, the message was sent to the House of Commons to tell them, the Senate, that it passed with some amendments. So basically, it seems like they're going to actually implement this, and it concerns me. Like, do I have to start using a VPN now when I post? Like, I don't know how this is gonna work, but it does not seem good.
Yeah. Canada, being from England and seeing what's happening in Canada, to me personally, it looks like Canada are trying everything they possibly can to do with censorship to gain control over the people within the country. And all the other countries are just sort of stepped back for a moment to watch how it plays out, what the end outcome looks like before they can try and do it. Because Canada's set up in a similar way to the United Kingdom, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
exactly. Because yeah, exactly. Like our queen is your queen. Yeah, there's a lot of like connections. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can't help but see because it's actually so crazy what's going on in Canada and how short of a time period all of this has taken place. But I can't help but feel like it's just a testing ground, and they're just using the Canadian citizens as tests to see what they can get away with, what they can normalize, and then roll it out in the other countries.
Yeah, like if they see no pushback from Canadians regarding this bill, then it will start being implemented in other countries in the West because they know they can get away with it.
Actually, Trudeau mentioned, and I don't know how long it was, but it was like some time ago, but it wasn't too long ago. Like, I don't know, in the last, let's say 8 to 10 years, at the least. And he's like, Trudeau claims that he admires China's basic dictatorship. So maybe that's all you need to know about this. Yeah. It's absurd to me. And yeah, I agree. Like, a lot of Canadians say that they want to move to the US, like they just can't like deal with what's happening here because we don't have like arms to protect ourselves. Did you guys know free speech is not kind of like in the Constitution like it is in America? Like there isn't really like a set in stone thing here. I'm not sure about over there, but it is. And there's a lot of Canadians though that are against everything that's happening. They're just not speaking up enough about it, or they're just afraid to. And that's the thing. And it's just, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I think in the UK it's similar in the sense where we don't have free speech as a law or in the Constitution like they do in America. I was watching a video today. I'm not sure if you ever forgot what it's called. You know, Constantine. What's his podcast called?
Trigonometry.
Trigonometry. It's a podcast with Constantine. He's a political comedian.
He's Russian, right?
Talker. Yeah, he's an immigrant from Russia, and he came up with this. Said this stat in an interview. I think it was 3,400 people in the UK have been arrested for content they've posted on social media.
Are you serious? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
One of them was a girl whose boyfriend died in a car accident. She posted some lyrics on Facebook of her boyfriend's favorite rap song, and it said the M word in it a few times. She got arrested for it. I think she got so many hours community service, a fine, and she was on a tag and under home arrest from 8 a.m. till from 8 p.m. till 8 a.m. every day.
Was this recent?
I think it was last year.
Wow. I have no words. Like, aren't there like lawyer, like what, that's the thing, right? Like that's the crazy thing about this. Like if they try to arrest you or fire you or suspend you, you have or from school, for example, like don't like you have to have like good lawyers, and like are they even gonna fight for, like that's insane. Like, you know, I'm not one to swear or like use these words, but I don't think people should get arrested, because that's, if you start arresting people for these things, you're done. Like, sorry, you're done. Like there's no more freedom of us saying anything. Like I think people, I actually wrote this down because I thought of this before, but I basically, because sometimes I write down my thoughts. People think like, oh, you want free speech so you can spew your hatred towards people. No, like the funny thing is, yeah, like I said, I don't swear, I don't like call people names, but people don't realize that if we're not allowed to have meaningful discussions and opinions, we will be heading into massive problems. And why is it that one side can say things and the other side can't? It's just, it's all hypocritical to me, really.
Yeah, well, I think the problem is by censoring people and not giving people free speeches, who decides what is the right thing to say and what's the wrong thing to say? If it's the government, then the government is going to decide things that benefit them. If you're saying things that benefit them, then that's okay. If you're saying things that negatively impact them, then it's not okay. So it's just control over the population through speech.
Yeah, and it's also hypocritical because how is it that we cannot share civil opinions, but then we see all these artists, their music videos with all this nudity, Satanism, all this stuff happening, and that's okay? Like it's just a bunch of hypocrisy, really.
That is the main problem, is who's going to be the one in control of it. If you start limiting people now, the way society's worked in the past, in terms of what you say and when you say it and where you say it, it's all based on a social sort of unwritten code of being nice to other people. But what they're doing is they're forcing people now to be nice but abide by their rules, which is obviously the big global elite's rules for mass control. But it worked fine when it's a social system in place where you don't. For example, with the song lyrics which she put on her Facebook page, she wasn't directing that racial slur to anyone because socially that's not accepted. It doesn't. She doesn't need to be arrested for it, but she should get people giving her sort of having an argument with her if she was to point that racial slur to someone. She just literally mentioned a song lyric. She wasn't directing it at anyone. She wasn't being negative. So for someone to, well, for the controlling powers to flag that up and punish someone for that, that's that's minuscule to what else people do. So the line's coming further and further and further back to a point where I wouldn't even be able to. I think I saw it not long ago. Do you know the term retard? I think that was one of the first terms where cancellations came about when people started using that term. So what they're saying now is, right, if you can't use that word, then you shouldn't be able to use other words like idiot, for example, which is in, I don't know how it is in Canada, but idiot in England is pretty much said on a daily basis by someone.
Yeah, it's just a common word, idiot.
Yeah, so it's going to get to a point where if someone says that word idiot or you're an idiot, then you're going to get cancelled. So where just having the global elites just having that slight bit of control, and then the more they push it and the more they push it and the more they push it, it's eventually going to get to a point where you've got a strict set of sort of vocab which you have access to and you can't come out of it, and it's just, yeah.
It's actually ironic you say that because there was like a university, I should have remembered, that posted out like a list of things you can't say. And one of them was like, hey guys, because, and I say hey guys all the time because it's what was it? Non-gender. Like it was a list of words, but they didn't even make sense. Like it was like mailman, firefighter, but like no one's gonna take that seriously. But I just found that ironic, like with what you guys were saying, if they try to control the speech, every other word will be censored, or like you say one thing like thrown in jail or whatever. It's just, I don't know how people are not seeing this. Are they just focused on their own lives? Are they, I don't know how people, like it's crazy to me. Like I don't know what happened that made me really open my eyes, but it's like, how are people not seeing this? Like I don't know. It's
I
just,
think more and more people are moving. Like, how long ago was it until you opened your eyes? Like, when would you say the trigger point was?
well, see, this is a good question because I was asked before, like what made me, and I can't remember. I cannot remember what exactly it was, but it definitely was. So I was never like, I know everybody's like, a lot of people that are like, I guess awake were part of the left at some point, but for me, I was never like one of those like social justice warriors or like the ones that would yell. Like I was just, because I was like I'm not, like I'm still pretty young, so when I was like more there, like I wasn't like really understanding what was happening, like, but I never really, like I was on the side of like, oh, kind of like the left, but like not really. And I guess I just mainly started more opening my eyes, kind of like a lot of people during the start of the pandemic. But it got more and more and more as soon as I started researching and seeing how they were actually treating people here in Canada who wanted to protest about the mandates, which I guess we can get into if you guys want. And then it just got more and more and more opening my eyes more and more and more as time went on.
Yeah, I think that the pandemic was definitely a big trigger point for a lot of people, but at the same time, it seems like it was one of those things where a lot of people, their eyes were open for it because they were like, with the, I'll blur it out because obviously we're talking about free speech and it'll get flagged, but because of the vaccine situation, a lot of people, their eyes were opened, and then when it, after a few weeks, they just went back to their normal self and just forgot. A lot of people have forgot about the way a lot of the world was treated during the pandemic, and they seem to have just gone back into their bubble of, okay, everything's now fine and dandy. But realistically, we need to look at the powers that be that control us, what they've done to us there. It's not okay. Like, they can't get away with it. We shouldn't just forget about it and move on.
Especially now that there's a lot of data coming out that, let's just say, the people that were questioning things had a point. Let's just say that at the very least, due to how YouTube is, they had some sort of a point. And like, yeah, with how they were treated here, like basically people who protested, they were considered, Trudeau called the people who were skeptical of mandates or something like that, who protested, or the V, I'll just call it the V, that were skeptical of it, they were considered, like, he literally called them race, they're likely racist, misogynist. Like, how do you draw that connection? We made people think that people who question things were these, he called them a fringe minority. And then you see the protest that was like one of the biggest in Canada, the trucks, and actually the leaders of it, I think they got arrested, and I don't know if they went out because it was considered like an illegal blockage, but yeah, they somehow, I think they got arrested for it too. So that's another thing. And also their bank accounts got frozen, and they're like, anybody who participated in this trucker convoy bank accounts frozen. I'm like, what is going on?
So how many people actually attended the trucker protest? Do you have?
I can find the number if you want, but I have no clue. But it's way bigger than people thought it was going to be, pretty much.
Yeah, I remember the trucker protest.
It wasn't overly publicized here on sort of the mainstream news channels. We just know about it from YouTube channels mainly.
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, him too. Oh, he's another one now. They want to take away his license in Canada. That's another thing too.
They want him to go through social media
Re-
training or something, re-education, or they're going to take his license away.
This concerns me because without going into too much detail, just because of like people are going to watch this, let's just say that the field that I want to get into, let's just say what I post maybe could be considered a liability, because I will have to work with populations of people, and not that I'm saying anything bad, but like one course I'm gonna have to take is like, I think it's called like anti-oppression, like this kind of stuff, like yeah, like that kind of stuff, which I'll take it. But if they misunderstand what I say on my channel and they think, like, for example, like those videos I made on reacting to the feminism thing, if they think like if they twist it around on me and say like, oh, see, you think women should not have this, and I could be considered like a liability or whatever to them, sort of thing. It kind of reminds me of like this. I was watching a video yesterday. This cop, he basically got fired because he off job, he posted on Twitter or somewhere that God made marriages like this, and then he got fired because they were worried that he was going to treat members of the LGBT like badly. So I guess what I'm saying is, what I might get into I could be risking it a little bit if they find me, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and then the other thing you've got to look at as well, which is scary to think about, is what we're saying right now might not seem that bad today, but in 10 years' time, it could be a criminal offence. So what we say today could be a criminal offence in 10 years' time. So they might come back and be like, he did that in the past. It's now a crime. You're going
That's
to.
scary. It really is.
Because that's what's happening now, right? They're flagging up things that people tweeted about 5, 10 years ago. And then they're cancelling. There was one guy, I don't know who it was, I can't remember, but there was one guy that passed away. And they found a tweet that he tweeted 5 years ago. Some celebrity, I think he's a comedian. And they want to cancel him. They want to hit all of his material that's been out there to get wiped off the face of the earth. And this guy, he wasn't even alive when all of this is happening.
It's like, it's funny, not obviously what happened to him, but it's funny how it's like even someone who's gone, like passed away, unfortunately, no, cancel the person who passed away.
Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, at least let the ones who have passed away sort of rest in peace. Just leave.
Exactly. And I think to myself, how do these people have all this time on their hands? I think also the problem is with these people, like citizens, is like their priorities are just like, some of them spend hours looking at this stuff. Like, don't they have like things they have to do? Don't they have like things they have to worry about, like with their health, their job, their family, friends? Like, why are they so concerned? Like, I don't have time to be like looking and getting offended at like what people are saying. It's just, I guess, people's priorities sometimes. I don't know.
The thing is, like, people get offended by jokes people have made 10 years ago, but there's bigger things going on in the world, such as all this Jeffrey Epstein stuff with the global elites, Bill Gates, Bill Clinton. They're all in on it, but you feel like no one's really making a big statement about that. It's kind of gone quiet. And if people are talking about it, they're sort of labeled conspiracy theorists. But it's a major thing that happened. And people are too focused on looking back at other people's tweets from 10 years ago and saying this person should be cancelled because he made a homophobic joke.
Yeah, like I think everyone knows about like what you mentioned at this point, like to some degree or to a lot. And I think they're just distracted by everything else. You know how everybody says that's just a distraction, like just so people focus on things that are more like irrelevant, like they fight each other without seeing who's really behind it. That's what people tend to say. And sorry, jumping back to it, I don't know if also another thing happening here is MAID, like medically assisted death, pretty much. And basically, I don't want to say we won with this, but they actually ended up waiting another year because basically they introduced this legislation that like medically assisted dying, I'm sure you guys know what it is, like when they doctors will end your life with your consent because of like a terminal illness, something really bad happening. But now they've expanded it to people with mental health issues and even people who are homeless. Like there was like this guy who was like homeless and he had something else like physical terminal illness. I think that's how you say it. I hope that's the right terminology. And they basically, he was considering it only not because of what he was feeling, but because he didn't want to be homeless. He'd rather be not here than on the streets. But thankfully, they raised enough money for him and he's fine now, it seems like. But the fact that they wanted to change it to like mature minors, which could be like 16-year-olds, and for mental illness. So now they're waiting another year because they need time to get this right. But if they're expanding this to people with mental health issues, everyone's going to be gone. And it just goes to show you that this is probably part of a bigger idea. Like, why? Like, it's actually ironic to me that Canada loves to bring in immigrants, which they can bring immigrants, but it's like but at the same time, they're fine with people taking their own life. Like, you know what I'm trying to say, for like mental illness, like that's the thing. People were fine with terminal illness, but now if we go to mental illness and teens, it's going to be a mess, I think.
Yeah, because there's a lot of mental, well, they say a lot of the sort of trans movement is sort of like a byproduct of mental health issues or depression. So this is going a step further with what they're sort of pushing to say if, I don't know, a 13-year-old's going through 13-year-old sort of depression whilst they're going through puberty and they're growing up, is it going to get to a point that that 13-year-old in the future could go to the hospital and say, I'm too depressed, like just take my life away? Like that's where I can see it going in the future if something like this does ever get passed.
Yeah, and like your teenage years are like a confusing time for everybody. Nobody really understands himself when they're a teenager. But to have the option to go and literally kill yourself through doctor's consent, it's just fucking insane.
Yeah, over a phase that you might be going through, you end up taking your life from it.
Yeah.
And without like going like saying the whole story, but it just reminds me when I was like that age, they basically, doctors put me on antidepressants for an issue that I basically never had. I was never depressed or really anxious at that age. I mean, I have anxiety now, but and it's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like they're very quick to push like medication or like push stuff made on people when really it could be a phase or other things could be, offered. And yeah, they're gonna say, oh no, it's if treatment doesn't work, if all other options are gone. But is that really how it's gonna be? I'm sorry, I don't have any trust anymore to like I've lost a lot of trust in these like officials that I don't know if I really believe that it's all other options are exhausted, because I guess to them it might be cheaper like taking someone's life or ending it than getting them really the help. And that's very, very, very concerning. Like we have like a mental health crisis here, like public health care, like there's really big wait times for like free therapy. If you want private, you pay and you can get it like, I don't know, within a week. But yeah, if you put two and two together, it just seems like there's something sinister behind this, to be honest. Even psychologists here, apparently this association, they didn't really agree with this. They were debating about this too. It's not like the psychologists agreed with this. They're actually, a lot of them don't agree with this either. That's why they waited another year.
It seems like Canada just going full pelt to do everything they possibly can to fuck up the country, basically.
Exactly. With the rising costs of everything here too, people might feel like they have no choice. And this isn't the country I grew up in. And yeah, like I wasn't really aware that much, when I was younger, but things don't feel the same anymore. And it almost feels like we have a target on our backs now, and like, some people joke, they're like, is America going to come save you guys? And it's like, the thing is though, sometimes I wonder, okay, if we all pack our bags and go to the US, the problem is still going to stay there. So we have to, I guess, like fight back or like do what we can, because then we're going to see just people just moving to the US, claiming political prisoner or whatever, like in the near future, if things keep progressing like this. Like, it's just, this was like a beautiful country and it still is, but it's crazy that this is happening. Even Australia, I think too, similar things are happening there.
Is there, because you've got obviously Trudeau in power now, who's the alternative? Who is there someone else he's competing with?
Well, we have actually, so it like the opposition. So I guess it would be, there's a lot of mention of this guy. I don't know how to say his last name, Pierre Poilievre or something. He's like this French person guy, and he I think he's like runs the conservatives, or he has something to do with it. So actually the elections are next year, like 2024, and I'm sure he's gonna get out. So he might be doing all he can now to do whatever he's trying to do, because for sure they're gonna vote him out, for sure. And some people don't even believe that Pierre is in the, like, some people think he's like controlled opposition too. Like they don't think he's um really in there for the people. And I don't know who to trust anymore, really. But he's, I guess, the opposite, like the opposition, I guess. Yeah. So for 2024, we have to vote. And I think in the US too, I'm not too sure. And hopefully, well, everybody wants Trudeau out now. Even people who are not really awake, like they're tired of it, to be honest. Yeah.
The majority of people in Canada don't like Trudeau.
I think a lot of, I don't have the exact number, but more than 50%, even if they're not awake, they might just not want him around because of like how expensive things are, or like what he said about this and that. But a lot of people do not like him, like people think. But people around the world like him because, you know, our country does a lot to help people worldwide and stuff. But in Canada, it's like, it's just funny to me. It's like Canada's doing a lot for everybody else. So they're not, because Canada is doing a lot for other countries, people that are living in other countries, they're not really seeing what's happening here, because they're like, oh, Canada's amazing, the US is amazing, they're giving money, aid, this and that. But if they really look at what's happening here, they're treating us like not the best, really, with this stuff. I think you guys get what I'm trying to say, like ignoring their own citizens, or like treating their own citizens like this. Yeah.
Yeah, so from what me and Aaron have sort of discovered on our journey with this channel is it all seems to be stemming back to the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, and he mentioned, well, with Trudeau being a member of the World Economic Forum, I think he mentioned that his name and then said we are having the country's cabinets, or what they
So
call
infiltrating
cabinets.
Yeah, cabinets, countries' cabinets with Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, he used
infiltrate, and he used the word infiltrate.
So it just, like, that's why I think whatever's happening in Canada now, like, I find it hard as an outsider. I find it hard not to envision a future of Canada as being China if Trudeau stays in power.
No, I absolutely believe there's actually, no, there's a lot of involvement with them. Like in the US too, like I don't know about like that whole balloon thing that happened, but that went over ours, and it went over ours and no one did anything. But there is a lot of involvement, because also there's actually apparently Chinese police stations here that they set up like to monitor their citizens, because we have a lot of immigrants from China and like India as well, but like like a lot of immigrants from China too. So I guess maybe that they claim that's why they're doing it, to monitor them. But no, there's, yeah, with America there's like a connection, but to Canada especially, and people make a joke like it'll be China soon, but no, definitely I wouldn't be surprised, and I see it definitely heading in this direction.
I've heard the same in the UK, that we have Chinese police stations in the UK as well. Illegal
I think
Chinese
they're
police
in a lot of countries, but I feel like the reason why, if people might say like to me, like, Alessia, why do you feel more like, I don't want to say worried, but like, you know, why do you feel like this in Canada when this is happening everywhere? The reason why is because we have a smaller population that's willing to do something about this. They took away like our like right to bear arms, which I know is like this in a lot of countries, freedom of speech, but also because of this. I feel like if we were like America, because I feel like in America, they're more like united about this. They're willing to fight back. They have their weapons. There's more here. It feels like maybe like 2% of Canada is willing to do something about this. And it's true. Or maybe not. Maybe it seems like it because everybody's hiding, but maybe soon everybody will come out into the surface and really do something. But I don't know. I feel very, I mean, I don't want to give them that satisfaction of feeling like, oh, see, now she's worried, she's afraid, because ultimately the goal is fear to like control people. But I just don't feel protected in Canada in terms of my rights, my freedom. Like, I feel like if I was in the States, maybe it would be more people willing to fight for me or fight for this. But at the same time, I also do want this country to fix that, to get fixed. I don't want to just escape and try to go to the US because it's not even possible, really. Like, unless I would marry someone from the US, but I'm not doing that, like, to try to, be able to move there. But to be honest, if my mom were to be like, pack up your bags, we're going to the US, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. Like, I don't have anything to lose anymore here, type of thing. Because I don't know, just Canada doesn't feel like my home anymore. I don't know why. It's just a personal thing, I guess.
I guess it's like finding what you want to do. Like, you can either turn your back on Canada and, like you said, try and escape, or you can stand there and fight. The options that it's either try and escape Canada, stand there and fight, or just fall into the sort of trap that they're trying to set up for you. Me and Aaron have had this discussion before where I think we've had it offline, never on the podcast, where we've said with the information we know now and the amount of research we've done and the amount of things that we've talked about and looked into, I don't think there is an option just to fall into that trap now of just go back to sleep and do what they want you to do. It's got to a point now where you know too much. You know too much. You can't turn your back on it because you can't look at life the same way again because you know how it's run, who it's run by, and how practically fucked up it is, the system.
Yeah, and something that how do I say, like, with knowing all this, the problem is though that we know all that, like, I'm speaking out, like, I'm doing what I can, talking about this, opening my eyes up, trying, like, especially when it comes to how I see people, like, where I see them as individuals. I don't put them in these boxes like this society tries to do. But also, I guess maybe this is like separate, but also the fact of the matter of like jobs and money, like working 9 to 5, like, how do you find like an alternative? Like, what do you do? Because at the end of the day, like, it's so unaffordable here that even for like a doctor, it's sort of unaffordable. So it's just, at least where I am, it's yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing. They want you to work 9 to 5, come home, do your house jobs, have your dinner, watch a bit of TV, go to sleep, rinse and repeat, do the same again, and then live for the weekend. You don't have any time to question things and think about what are these people doing? How are these people running our country? What are the media doing to sort of try and brainwash me? They don't want you asking these questions. They just want you to work, eat, sleep, and that's it.
Exactly, kind of like in a robot, like programmed, like robotic. And a lot of people say, don't, once you're awake, don't go to school. Like, they're just going to indoctrinate you. They're just going to, but I told myself, even if, like, when I go study, they're not going to do that. Even if I read and read, they're not going to get to my head. That's the thing. Like, I know so much now that even if they keep trying to push things on me, I'm not going to believe it. Or I'm just going to sit there and try to work through it, because what I'm doing or what I want to do is for the better of society. It's like just to help people, to like, counsel them, to like give them this therapy, this support. And, they might try to bring in like this woke stuff, but I'm going to try to like push past it. And actually, this is something I thought to myself. I'm like, what if I go to school and, like, I keep studying and then I start to feel isolated. I start to feel like alienated. Like, I feel like it's just, but then what happened was when I went to go check it out yesterday, and I don't know if this was like a sign or just something that made me smile, crazy enough. So I went to check it out. It was kind of quiet. So as I was like leaving the parking lot, I saw like I guess it was these guys that they were leaving with their cars and trucks, and one of them at the back had a sticker. And this sticker is known for a lot of people who are awake, who are against what's happening, and it literally said F Trudeau on the back. And when I saw it, it wasn't even because of what it said, it was because of the fact that feeling like, okay, there's someone here that at least knows kind of what's going on. It kind of gave me a bit of like that hope, as crazy as that sounds, because I feel like people like us are like outcasts in these schools, in these jobs, like, we are alienated, but seeing this kind of gave me that glimmer of hope, like maybe there is more conversation and dialogue and it's not just woke, one-sided, this and that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a really good point because you can tell how easy it is to become alienated in this. It's like you've moved to a different world because since you've been like made awake or you've awoke. I guess it's like on the Matrix taking the red pill. Sorry, you take the pill and you know everything, and that's why another problem which I have in society is everyone's fucking following the narrative because they're told to. We're outcasts, like you said, because we're questioning the narrative. I wouldn't say we're going against it. We're not exactly fighting and writing. We're just question at this moment. All you can really do is question it and make people aware enough to question it as well. But the problem is, even questioning it is a problem to the people that are following the narrative. Even if you question, do we actually need to be locked down? Is the virus actually what they say it is? You can get shut down from everything. But you say that to a random person you meet in the pub or on the street, they'll look at you a bit funny and probably not want to talk to you. So everyone in our sort of community of, let's say, red pill takers feel this way where we can't talk to people because if we try and talk to them and they've not been awoken, I think that's the word, and they've not woken up, are they going to judge me? So you're always reserved about talking to people about it. But then when you do find someone who's awake and you mention it to them and they talk, you have one of the best conversations you can.
Exactly. It's like a breath of fresh air. Like, I don't know about you guys, but it almost seems like now, when it comes to like what you want in, let's say, like a friendship or relationship, I feel like the bare minimum has to be that they've woken up somehow, because or else there's gonna be like a disconnect, at least for me. I know it's funny, but it's like it has to, like, I need to be around people who at least, they don't have to be fully waking up, but they're questioning things, because if they don't question things, there's no communication. If things really get bad, we're separated. That's it. Like, because they're gonna follow that, I'm gonna follow that. But like the connection feels so deep and genuine with people who have woken up. I don't think people realize to the extent, or at least for someone like me, where I'm like, I feel people's emotions, like I would consider myself like an empath, and being like talking to people who question things and are awake, it's such a breath of fresh air. I don't feel judged. I feel it's really nice. So imagine like a whole country or whole community like that. It'll be amazing.
It's just like people who just question things. They don't have to fully be awakened and look into all this stuff. Just as long as they're questioning the narrative and open-minded to have a good discussion about it, I think discussion builds such a better relationship than like superficial. Oh, what was the football score this weekend?
Exactly. Exactly.
Distractions, right? It's just stuff to take your mind off what's actually going on.
In fact, I don't like watching movies and TV shows. I would rather watch documentaries. I'd rather watch real life stuff. And I was also saying, oh, what was I saying now? Oh no, I forgot. Continue. If I remember, I'll mention it.
Yeah, one thing I was going to say is I think as red pill takers, we need to identify how difficult it actually is for each other that are awake. And that's why I feel like building communities for people who have woken up is a great thing to do, because it gives people sort of like a shoulder to lean on, because a lot of people do feel isolated, like we talked about earlier. But it gets people talking, and it's easy to fall into the rut which you see a lot of people in terms of like the left, for example. They're all in this rut of anger where, oh, you don't agree with what I agree with, and they just fire at you, and it's just anger, and it's not getting them anywhere. But if you build these communities where you can properly talk to people and come up with sort of ideas on how to get more people awake and questioning things in a really positive manner, then that's going to help. And I think Jordan Peterson, he I don't know if you listened to Joe Rogan, but he came out on Joe Rogan and said he's creating, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's basically a competitor to the World Economic Forum to make things fairer for the masses. I think that's one of the best things I've ever heard anyone on this side of life, I guess, do. Since I've been involved in all this, I've not heard anyone progressively creating. But we've only got 70 subscribers. He's got, I want to say 6 or 7 million. So
6
for someone,
million, I think 6.4
someone of that
something.
stature to have that following, to actually not just be talking about it, and I don't want to say moaning, but it basically is moaning. He's actually building something to make change, but he can do that because he's got the following behind him. But all of us who are coming up now, as we can see, we're really restricted because YouTube is Google and they don't want to push our content because it goes against the narrative that they want to push. So we're a threat to them, which I'm
Yeah,
proud to be a threat.
yeah, or Rumble, but Rumble too. I tried posting a few videos, like doesn't you get more I get at least more views on YouTube than Rumble, because Rumble, I don't know how it still works. I'm trying to navigate it, but you're right. And like if they if they're successful with this, they're gonna get a lot of support. Like the new thing they're trying to do. Wow, that's crazy. Like that's crazy. Like wow.
It's
Just
it's keeps you going, right? It's like a glimmer of light to look towards.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. This, what he's setting up, is a bit of a beacon of light down a long dark tunnel. But hopefully we'll get there one day, and we'll see. Sort of all these issues we're identifying will have some be resolved in one way or another. I think. The good always wins. The bad doesn't.
right, exactly. And I remembered what I was gonna say. And also I feel like our ancestors, or like our relatives who have passed away that are like older, they're looking at what's going on now, and like especially people who fought for our freedom, fought, like that's why I have so much like sympathy for like veterans, because like they try to fight for like their country and then look how they're treated. But like just looking at what's happening now, like our ancestors must be thinking like, what kind of world has it gotten into? The people who think like, who, I don't want to say like the normal people, but the people like us, where the way we think was like normal like all this time ago is now not normal anymore. That's insane to me. And what I remembered right now is that I feel like these people, we're gonna call them the bad guys, I feel like they kind of want us to know what's happening, because think about it like this, because I think this to myself: why haven't how was the Matrix able to be and maybe you guys have the answer, maybe this is obvious, how was the Matrix able to be posted? How are people like Tom McDonald, the Daily Wire, Jordan Peterson, if they're actually like exposing what's going on, why are they able, like how come their stuff hasn't gotten shut down yet? So a little part of me thinks that like they kind of want us to know what's happening, so at least they can claim that, oh, see, they're not fighting back, that's why we can continue to do this, or something. Like I feel like they kind of want us to know. But then also people can bring up Tate, which I don't know if you guys were thinking of bringing up Andrew Tate, the fact that some people think he genuinely got arrested for trafficking, some people think he got arrested because he exposed what was happening. So yeah, it's like I think to myself, like, why hasn't like the Matrix movie been like taken down? Like if this is really exposing what's happening, because I thought that everything would be shut down that's somewhat exposing. I hope you guys get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think there's any sort of way we decipher what you've said can only be seen as a conspiracy theory, because you can say they won't take the Matrix down because if they do take the Matrix down, it just shows they've got something to hide. So back in the day, well, I wouldn't even say back in the day, just a couple of years ago, when conspiracy theorists were about, which a lot of it's come true, it was quite normal just to call someone a conspiracy theorist and then for that person to move on. That's still happening today. So we would get called conspiracy theorists. Our channel, if you showed it to a normal person, they would just sign it off as a conspiracy channel, when in fact we're talking truth. So I think at this moment, this is just what I think, but I think at this moment in time, people we're going through a transitional period where the conspiracies are obviously coming true, but we're still sort of being written off as crazy people. Like Kanye West is being written off as crazy. Andrew Tate's being written off as, well, every single word that's under the sun he's being getting written off for. But I think it is a transitional period at the moment where more and more people are waking up and realizing these crazy people aren't actually crazy. They're onto something. So I don't know if we might see it in a few months, but that's just my theory. But that's probably a conspiracy.
I saw this joke where it's like, what's the difference between wait, let me remember it. Oh, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth? 6 months. So basically, like conspiracy theories come true essentially. And exactly, and actually, I feel like I've become stronger, and maybe it's just like my turn, like my faith getting stronger and stronger, that I feel like I'm not afraid anymore. Like I feel like if this was maybe 6 months ago, I wouldn't maybe come on here. I wouldn't post some things I was talking about. I wouldn't, like, sometimes when people comment and reply to me, I don't like confrontation, so I'll delete the comment. But I feel like I'm becoming more and more firm now and not as afraid, because I'm like, I'd rather be bold and take a chance, because life is a whole risk, than be scared and be, I like, even what we're talking about now, I thought a few months ago, if they hear us talking about this, they're going to go after us. But everyone talks about this. They can't go after everybody. And not just that, we can't live and be afraid of everything,
Yeah, but the thing is, we just need to be honest and try and figure out what we think the truth is in this world, because I feel like the mainstream media are just lying to us. Everything they put out, I think, is just a lie. Not everything. Some of it there might be some truth in some of it, but the majority of it is just a load of bullshit. So I feel like my job is to find out what the truth actually is, and everyone might find out the truth in a different way or might interpret the truth differently, but just based on my experiences and what I'm learning and what I'm researching is what I think the truth is. And I don't think, if I believe something's the truth, I shouldn't be scared to say what I think the truth is. So, like, being arrested or whatever, if anyone wants to come for me, it doesn't bother me, because I feel like I must be doing something right then.
And the truth always comes out eventually, or that's my belief at least. Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't, like, can't run away from your opinion and how you feel, and it's your journey, your experience. You can't shut away from it, because you're just asking to go into this deep depression. And I guess that's kind of what they want. They want people weak, and they want them depressed and sad, and for them to sort of, I feel like, well, I would never say I was depressed, but I have been through periods of my life where I've been down. But since the last year or so, like, going on this journey and discovering all of this, like I said, new world, I've probably been in the best, like, feeling the best I've ever felt, ever. But I think feeling awake actually it's good for your
Alive.
mental health.
You feel alive. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, what do you think about Andrew Tate and what's gone on there?
Yeah. So I made a few videos on this, and the reason I'm referencing the videos is just so I remember what I said. Okay, so the first video I made, I mentioned how I was just like looking into him. People in my comments were, I wouldn't say they were kind of coming after me, but they kind of probably thought I was one of the haters or whatever. So my overall conclusion of Tate, I guess, would be that I think that as much as, okay, I don't think that he's okay, so I don't see him as this crazy evil misogynist. In fact, there's some things I don't agree with, like in a sense where I wouldn't live my life like that, or like in a sense where like what I don't agree with him when he talks about this whole like sleeping around thing. I would rather like nobody do it, like where I think he mentioned something about like how men can like cheat but women can't. I think nobody should at all. Like, in my opinion, like I wouldn't want to be in a relationship where the guy thinks he can cheat. Like I don't want him to, like, just, but that's how like a lot of people think, like that should be normal. But some people have different beliefs. It is what it is. But I personally, even, being a girl, being through what I've gone through, I don't think of him as a threat to me. Like I wouldn't feel unsafe around him. I also apparently he's being held illegally in a sense. Illegally, when I say that, I mean like there's no evidence apparently, and they're still keeping him there. And that no matter who he is, like I don't people should not be wrongly kept there when there's no evidence. And I think people are trying to find evidence against him. And I think, you know, this is the thing. Some people look at like little things he said, like they look at the things he said about feminism, about the war, and they form like a really bad opinion on him. And you know, you don't have to like him, but like justice has to prevail. So if he's there wrongly, people should talk about it, or people should try to do something about it, you know? And I just, even if he was there, like I honestly don't think he trafficked people. I think the worst he's done, if he's done this, is maybe with his business, like scamming people, but at the worst. I really don't think he's trafficked people. I don't know. What do you guys think?
So with Andrew Tate, like I won't talk too much about him being in prison because I feel like it's very cloudy, and because in a Romanian prison as well, there's not much information that we can really go off.
Yeah, this is just what his lawyer was saying. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like everyone on his side is saying that there's no evidence and he shouldn't be kept there. But I'm not going to comment too much on that. But him as a person before he was in prison, I was looking into him because I was really interested in him, because I was hearing a lot of like younger men were listening to him, and I was thinking like, why is this guy like taking off so much? So I started listening to him and I thought, all right, like he's actually talking a lot of sense, and you're right in a sense where he says a lot of shit that I don't believe in, and I wouldn't follow that same path of life he's taken. But I feel like he picks up on a lot of issues in society, especially with, I feel like from my male perspective, there's a lot of issues with young men in today's society where I feel like they don't have a place in society because a lot of masculine traits are being branded as toxic masculinity. Whereas I think Andrew Tate says, no, it's okay to be masculine. Go out, like work hard and like be a man, like be the protector that you are. Which I think is a good message for young men to listen to, because it gives them some sort of responsibility and some sort of meaning to their life. Whereas before they might have been lost and had no direction, Andrew Tate telling them to go out and be the protector that you are gives them some purpose to go and get something, which I think is good for mental health, men's mental health. And there's another thing I heard him, he said a young guy came up to him and said that, I emailed him and said he's really depressed at the moment. He's considering committing suicide. And Andrew Tate, and he said, can you help me? Andrew Tate said, go to the gym, go and get a six-pack, and then come back and talk to me and tell me how you're feeling. So he did that. He came back and spoke to him. He said, I'm feeling miles better. My depression's gone. Like, I'm really happy now. But it's given him a goal to work towards that's got him out of that depression.
Right. Yeah, like the thing with him too, though, I guess, I don't know if, I guess this is like like relating to it. The thing with Tate though is I feel like, okay, so I think with Tate, like I've always been on the fence with him, because when it comes to these people online, I just don't fully, like I don't idolize anybody online like famous, because I don't know the way they really are. But I'm kind of in the middle about him. Like, yeah, like you said, some things I agree, some things I don't. But I don't think that he's like a threat to me, at least like as a woman, right? Because it's all about him being sorry, about him being like a misogynist. I don't see him like as a threat, but I just feel like now sorry, what I'm noticing too is like a lot of people who have kind of like bounced off of Tate, or like done something similar with Tate, they tend to, so I saw this like podcast, like I came across it on Rumble, where, you know, they get like 6-7 girls, like I guess they're Instagram models, in a room, and then they start
fresh and fit.
Exactly that. And exactly that. And I see the comments, and they're all like there's, I guess they're all guys, and they're all like saying stuff about these girls and stuff like that. And And I feel like they're not looking at the other side of things where there's girls that are not doing this, but they want to find a guy that's similar to them. Like in like, I guess what I'm saying is like, I also feel like now men and women are at each other's throats too with this whole Tate stuff, because there's men saying, I want a woman like this, women saying, I want a man like this. And they're not looking at the more like calm side of it, where there's two people that want to be together, that want to, because sometimes I feel like these people, Tate type of people, they also can be a bit like hypocritical in some sense, or like they don't see the other side of things. Like they say women this and that, but they're not seeing what about the women that are doing this and that, but they want a guy who's also being loyal to them and not doing all this stuff that they're doing. I hope you guys get what I mean. Like I think they're just seeing the more extreme side of it. Like I think everyone's seeing the more extreme side, like the extreme girls, the extreme guys, but like there's no middle ground, or like the people that are calm and they're doing things in a good way. They're just not the loud voices.
Yeah. Well, I think like Fresh and Fit, for an example, is two extremes literally just sat on a podcast arguing with each other.
Yeah, I stopped it. I couldn't watch it anymore. Yeah.
It's just a stupid concept, really.
It's not really a healthy discussion, right? They're not really getting anywhere with their discussion.
Yeah, they're just kind of coming at each other, and the fans are like calling people names, and it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's quite a toxic setting, to be honest.
I think that's like the issue with Andrew Tate is he's built like a fan base that listens to everything he says and takes it as gospel and looks at him like he's Jesus, when he's not. Like he says some things that are like sound-minded and all right, but then he says a lot of things as well that are a bit too wild and out there.
I actually said I think his fans are more extreme than him. There's kind of truth to that. At least what I've noticed. I feel like his fans are more vicious than he is. I don't know why. Like I felt that aggression from the fans. I don't know why. Just me personally.
I think most of what he says, he's got. I wouldn't say I necessarily agree with everything he says, like you've obviously mentioned, but I understand where he. Obviously, it's his opinion. It's where he's been on his own journey, obviously, and he's built these opinions over time. But any opinion he has reasoning behind his opinion. He's not just plucking things out of thin air and saying things just to sort of stir a pot and cause, I don't know, controversy. But what he's actually saying, he's always got reasoning behind it. And same with Jordan Peterson, he's always got well thought out reasons for what he says. But everyone's different. I prefer hanging around with certain people and not others, but it's up to the listener to take on board what best suits them in their life, rather than, like Aaron said, listening to every single thing he says as gospel and then adapting your whole life around, shit, I want to be Andrew Tate, I want the Bugattis, I want the private jets, I want to cheat on my other half. You just might want the Bugatti. So listen to the things that he says to help you go and get your Bugatti. You might just want to cheat on your partner. So just, that's a negative thing, but just listen to the parts of what he says to cheat on your partner. Don't listen to everything he says. Don't listen to everything Jordan Peterson says. Anyone that's got, don't listen to everything that we say on our podcast. Everyone's got their opinions, and people need to own their opinions. As soon as you start getting mad at Andrew Tate because of his opinions, what does that mean for everyone else? That means we can't have our opinions either. So it's just another sort of string into the cancel culture, and everyone's just using Andrew Tate to progress where cancel culture's going. People just need to actually realize and actually stop and think for a second instead of getting angry all the time and think, well, this is a human being who's got opinions. He's probably not always right. No one's ever right. No one's perfect. He's not a godlike image, like you've said.
Yeah, like I'm able to separate the argument from the person. Like I look at the argument. I actually made a video, like a short video saying like, even like now that he's arrested, I'm not going to take down my videos on him, because like, I still think that a lot of things he says, like, with this whole free speech thing, with like the whole, like, I think a lot of it is important to hear, and people were agreeing with me. But the thing is, a lot of people, and like from, let's just say, like when he said stuff about like political situations that are happening in other countries or conflict that's happening in other countries, that's like a big reason why a lot of people don't like him, because he said stuff about things happening in other countries, about certain leaders and things like that. And I understand that these people are upset about that, but we have to kind of also look at the bigger picture, like what he is saying that can benefit society, you know? And like if someone were to like think that I agree with everything he says just because of the videos I made, like that's their loss. Like I'm not going to apologize for talking about things because people are taking it the wrong way. Then yeah.
I feel like the people who agree with every single thing he says, are just as bad as the people who disagree with everything he says because he said one thing they disagree with.
Exactly. Middle ground.
But then you've got to look at it like from this point of view of how has society allowed that person to blow up to the point that they've blown up? There must be a requirement or a need within society for a role model like Andrew Tate, or else he wouldn't have got to the level that he's got to. If he was just saying shit that wasn't right and no one could possibly agree with, he wouldn't have got to the level that he's got to. So you got to strip it back to society and think there's a need for it in society. Why is there a need for this? Because there's no male role models out there.
I also think it's because he's very extreme about it. So for example, like if I were to make clickbait thumbnail saying, I'm in love with Andrew Tate, or I want to like push Andrew Tate off a cliff, whatever, then that would get attention because like extreme, like you have to, I think to get views and attention and everything, you got to make like really extreme points, but I wouldn't do that. Like I wouldn't clickbait things and things like that, but that's how to get people's attention, because his points were considered like extreme as well, like the little clips. So I think they took his little clips that were kind of extreme and put it out there to get like attention. Because the reason why I think all these people are going famous, like it seems like the crazy people or like the extreme voices are getting famous is because people want that drama. Like if you're level-headed, like us, for example, or like rational, it seems like people don't care because it's not like giving them drama, you know? So I think also like the extreme voices get a lot of attention because people like that dopamine or whatever it is, like that excitement.
It's like the feeling you get when you watch a drama on TV.
Yeah.
They want that. They want to sort of replicate that in their own life and get that feeling in the real world.
When it comes to feminism, LGBTQ, and like racial stuff, I don't know what it falls under. It's like some what's it called? Marxist. Pardon?
Is it diversity?
Yeah, but like there was like kind of like a school of thought thing. Anyways, yeah, so that kind of stuff with diversity, because that's a big one. I think this is just me personally. I mean, I grew up in a city where all my close friends, even now to this day, online, offline, are not even my ethnicity. So, you know, that's just how I am. Because, and the thing is though, if you tell them I don't see color, that's actually considered racist somehow, saying I don't see color, which I don't know if they think like you're ignoring their struggles, but I just don't care where someone is from. Like it's more like their beliefs that matter to me. And I think this is like a big problem. People still will put others in boxes, and just because they're from this country, just because they're this gender, this orientation, they must be like this and that. And seeing people as individuals, I know it's hard because people have biases sometimes, and like we all have our preferences, but kind of getting out of this and not putting these like prejudice or these like judgments of people. I know sometimes these stereotypes, like you know the stereotype about like the blue hair, green hair people, like that they're all like woke and stuff. Like I know sometimes there's a little bit of a pattern people notice, but at the same time, just trying to look at people as individuals, because this is a really big problem. And you know, this whole privilege stuff they talk about, and actually I know someone, they told me their friend in college made them write an essay of how they have privilege because of their skin color, because they're European or something. And I'm like, what if this person that's European was literally homeless all their life? Like, how do you
Yeah, how do you connect them dots?
Yeah. I feel like sometimes with this like diversity, like everyone says white privilege, I feel like that itself is racist by saying white people are more privileged than colored people or black people. It's just like instead of, because obviously we all know black people were oppressed in the past, by oppressing white people, how does that make it right in today's society? Everyone should just be on a level playing field now. Like, the past is the past. It's happened. Like, what we can't change that now. But what we can change is what happens today. And what we can do today is put everyone on a level playing field and treat everyone like the humans they are. Not, you're white, so that means you're privileged because you've got a different skin color to me because I'm dark. Like, it just makes fucking zero sense.
Yeah. I said this like a few months ago. I'm like, one day there's gonna be like people like reverse racism, or like it's gonna reverse on it's like gonna turn around. And honestly, like for example, it's turned around now because people are hating on men now. Like straight white Christian men, they're like giving them so much grief. And it's gonna turn around one day, and it seems like it is. And actually, but then it comes to this argument where they'll see like a European and say you're privileged, but then I can come around and say, actually, Italians were also discriminated and nobody really talked about that. I could go say that. What about that? So, or like even Irish people or this person, that person. And I feel like at some point, everybody, like all people, or at least most people were, somehow like oppressed. And you know what I said in one of my videos when it talks about feminism? I don't feel oppressed for my gender. I don't feel oppressed for where I come from. I feel oppressed because of my opinions. That's what I feel oppressed about, or what I feel discriminated about, or what I feel disadvantaged about. That's like my opinions and my beliefs, not what I look like. Or my gender. That's how I feel now in this day and age.
What I'll probably say I feel like, and I'll probably won't, a lot of people probably won't agree with me, but for example, right, you've got Black History Month. Until we can let go of that type of sort of celebration, no one's going to be equal. And I think it's similar to what Aaron was saying. If we keep having to pull these people up and put them we're still categorizing them, no matter what race they are. In any discussion that we have, we're categorizing the different races and saying, oh, they need some more support. These are even the same with the whole diversity movement across the whole board, across every single area. Until we stop categorizing people, people are going to be categorized. And if you categorize people, you're putting them into different tribal groups. And then within tribal groups, there's going to be conflict. One of them things is going to be racism, because people are categorizing races all the time. And until we just say, just get rid of all the categories, stop, for example, taking a knee at a football game to say no to racism. Just stop talking about it and stop categorizing it, and it will phase out. It will probably won't phase out immediately. It'll probably be over some sort of time period, but until we can stop categorizing people, people are still going to be racist, because it's just the way society is built.
Actually, I was gonna say quickly, I think Morgan Freeman said, like, how do we stop racism? Just stop talking about it or something. And what I was gonna quickly say is that I also don't like the labels white, black, Asian, brown. Like, it's like then people start arguing on who's what, who's this, that. For me, if I'm gonna use where someone is from, like my friend is, I'm not gonna say my friend is black. I'm gonna say my friend is Jamaican, or my friend is not white, they're British. Like I would rather use the country because it shows like their culture. Like I don't like these white, black. Even some people might argue, okay, don't bring up where they're from. But like if we're gonna talk about where they're from because of, I don't know, some cultural thing, like I don't even like those white, black, this, that, because then people start arguing about it. I'd rather use the country if we have to. But yeah, go on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you've got to look at if we want equality, you've got to look at humans as equals. And just because of the categories we've put in place, saying the word black is Black Lives Matter, it's all around a negative connotation of it. If we're going to say, my friend's Jamaican, my friend's just basing it on their country, we're just categorizing them from where they were born. We're not actually being racist. And what you said about Morgan Freeman, the best way, that's basically what you just summed it up in a sentence, what I just spent like 30 seconds ranting.
Yeah, I was going to follow up on that as well, like, because it's always being spoken about race this, race that, race this, race that. It's at the forefront of everyone's minds, so they're always thinking about, or what race is he, or what race is she, and this and that. And it just, because that's at the forefront of people's minds, that's where it makes racism more prominent. where if it's not spoken about at all and it's just left, like there probably will be some racism still, but I don't think it'll be as extreme as what we're seeing today.
It'll phase out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, it's like because I guess because of this month, Black History Month, there was two like things that happened that got people upset. So one, quickly in Canada, there was a movie theater that or a play they were gonna put on a play. It was like a story of this girl who she was, I guess we're gonna use these terms like Black, and she like it was like about her life. Like it wasn't about anything having to do with racism. It seemed like it had something to do with her family. You know what they said? Basically, long story short, they only wanted people who identified as Black to go see it. And apparently, if you didn't identify as Black, so if I went, they would have talked to me and be like, kind of, they would discourage me from going. And people were really upset about that. Like, basically, they wanted to have only people that identified as Black to go. And also the other incident where the 5 Black police officers killed the one Black guy, they're saying it's based on white supremacy. Like they're always bringing up race into it. Like what if he was killed because he was like falsely killed? Like they shouldn't have done that. And it was tragic. But what if he got killed because of something else? Like they're always bringing up gender, race. Like if I go, or if like a guy does something to me, oh, he's a misogynist. Or if I do something to someone that's Black, I'm a racist. If I do something to someone who's LGBT, I'm like, they're always making it about that when that person who's like hurting someone, there's something wrong. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like they're always making it about that, but it could be a completely different reason. Like you just decided to be the target that day, which is tragic, but they're always, yeah, like you guys said, they're always bringing it up. That's the thing.
It's in the forefront of everyone's mind, because if you watch media or a news channel with like open eyes to try and identify the way they actually structure the information that they're giving you, it is like you said, Black man does this, or like trans woman does this.
It would be if like a white guy attacked a woman, it would be like beat her up or something. It'd be like white misogynist beats up woman in the street.
So it's always in the forefront of everyone's mind. So I think I forgot who said it. One of you said it, but it's like, so if you then go, because you're listening to it all the time on media, social media, TV, even movies, for fuck's sake, because look at the way it's like a new movie comes out, it's got no Black actors in it, then it's going to be a news headline saying movie, like, I don't know, Tarantino drops a new movie with no Black actors. So it's always at the forefront of everyone's mind. So then when you go out into these social settings, you're subconsciously thinking, like, how do I, you might meet a Black person and be like, well, how do I engage with this person? Am I doing this right? Is this wrong? Is this right? So it's never going to escape your mind. So it's always going to be there. And then the more it's there, as we're seeing as well now, the more ways to be racist come about. Things like we said, I think towards the beginning of the podcast, stuff we say today we could get in trouble for in 10 years' time, because stuff that we say today might not necessarily be racist, but in 10 years' time, when the culture's developed and racism developed, it could somehow become racist, whatever we've said so far.
Yeah, and you made a great point about how we seem to feel like we have to be more careful around people. Like now you see this whole thing where, I don't know who said this, like Jordan Peters, someone, I don't know who it was, that men are now more careful with women. They're afraid of doing anything because they don't want to get like allegations against them, like even giving them a hug. And that's crazy to me, because like now people are afraid of doing anything to the groups that are considered minorities still or oppressed, because they're afraid they're going to get public a backlash or something. Like you guys like saying how now, how do I interact with this Black person? What if they think I'm doing this, or how do I interact with this woman? And it's like crazy to me now. People, it's like, oh, they're afraid of interacting with each other.
By keeping people afraid to communicate and work together with each other, it keeps the population weaker, because we're not all working as a team anymore. We're working in our own little groups or in smaller communities, rather than working as a big community against like issues that affect the wider community, such as censorship. Like if we were all working together and you were friends with your neighbours and everybody would just treat each other the same in normal society, you'd be able to build such a stronger team of people to fight against any laws that take away any of your rights.
I wish, like, I want to see a day of that happening. I wish, you know, like how like if we unite together, like we can accomplish a lot.
100%.
And then, like the movement, for example, what Jordan Peterson's doing, I think it could help unite people. It could get people who aren't necessarily awake, but they can just see that they're not happy with society. I think there's a lot of people that aren't awake, but they're just not happy with the way society is going, and maybe they can't pinpoint it. Maybe they don't want to pinpoint it. Maybe they just don't want to. I understand that some people, they don't want to accept it because they wish it was different, and they feel like, oh, if I live my life a different way, then it won't be happening. And I think building a big community that accepts people in to question things and to actually be realistic about what's going on will help mental health massively, and it will just help society across the board.
Yeah, it's true. Like trying to unite people, and it does feel like when you wake up, kind of like we mentioned in the front, in the beginning, not the front, in the beginning of the podcast, is that you feel like once you wake up, you feel like you're watching this from like a third person. Like you feel like you're like in a movie somehow. Like you're one of those, like a zombie apocalypse movie. It's like it's changed my perception in such a crazy way. I don't even know how to pinpoint it. But when I keep seeing more and more people, it's giving me more hope, and it's actually helping a lot, you know. Seeing people speak out and awake, it makes me feel less alone, less, you know, just yeah, really.
It's funny when you say it feels like you're in a movie, because it does feel like I'm in some crazy movie right now.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I've got a question for you, and Josh asked it us when we interviewed him, and it was, if there's one thing you could change in the world, if you were in control of the world, what would be the one thing you would change?
Oh, in
Something along
general,
those lines.
that's a good question.
Yeah.
Oh, give me a second. Okay. Just thinking. Okay. I feel like I'm probably gonna think of something when, like, in like 2 hours, because that's the thing sometimes I think after. But I would say what I would change. Okay, I would somehow open up everybody's eyes, but if that's not possible, I would say if everyone can treat others the way they want to be treated, I feel like a lot of this would like go away, because like we would be all kind to each other and everything. But what I guess would change, I would just, I mean, there's a lot I would try to fix the whole system, but what I guess want one thing to happen is people to just open up their eyes, because I feel like once you open up your eyes, you become sometimes this whole different person. Like you have more compassion, you see people for the way they are, you don't see them for these labels, you feel this sense of community. So definitely I would just, what can make a world a better place is if people started treating people the way they want to be treated. Everybody would obviously be kind to each other, because no one would want to be treated terribly, and just people to really open up their eyes and to really think, just think, like, this is our life, we have a short life here, and we have to, like, I don't know, I feel like I almost feel like it's a blessing to kind of open up your eyes. Like I almost feel like maybe this is the purpose of life, because I feel like once you awake, like some new enlightenment comes, like just something like I don't know if it's like a spiritual thing, I don't know if it's a psychological thing, like something changes. And I feel like the way I was able to open up my eyes, I feel, even though it's like a blessing and a curse, that's just how I feel. And you know, at the end of the day, sometimes I wonder, like, I wish we were wrong about this all. Like I wish we were wrong and things were actually perfectly fine and everybody was treated nicely and there wasn't some control thing going on. I wish. But the reality is it's the way it is now. And I just want more people to really think about what they're doing, think about what they're reading, and really take some thought and be willing to trust yourself and to be okay with having your own opinion.
Oh, that's a good answer.
Yeah,
Very
it's a
good.
really good answer. I like what you said, being awakened is a blessing but a curse, because it's a sense of freedom that you get with it, but at the same time, the overcloud of darkness, which is sort of carried over you because being awake means you sort of broke free from the shackles in a sense, but then you can look back and see, first of all, everyone that's still tied in the shackles. And then the other side of it is you see the amount of chaos that's going on in the world, which a lot of people who are tied to the shackles don't see. So it is.
Yeah. It's
sort
like breaking out of prison, but it's raining outside.
Or it's like I was thinking it's like being in your mother's womb, like all like cared for, safe, protected, and you come out and you're in like the real world, and it's like you don't have that blanket over you anymore. It's reality starts to hit you, and I don't know. I mean, sometimes I wonder if our purpose here in life is just to like awake, like this is like all like a game, like I don't know. Sometimes I see it like Jumanji, like you know how like they have to go, you know how like in Jumanji they have, I don't know if you've seen the movie, they have to like go and overcome the obstacles, and in the end they get like the jewel, I think, and then they scream Jumanji and it's like over. So sometimes I think like this is the way life is. Like we're supposed to wake up and try to change things. Like I don't know, like a video game. Like it just feels like a movie. I don't know how to explain it.
I get 100% what you mean. I guess that's why a lot of people become connected with religion, though, right? That's what, from our journey or my journey, I've identified is a couple of months ago, I was saying I was atheist, and finding out the amount of information I found out over the last couple of months, it's kind of hard to be an atheist when you look at the world and the way you know how the world's run. There must be a higher purpose somewhere, because whether it's we're in a simulation and someone's designed a simulation that's going down one end of it, or if it's the realms or whatnot.
I also think of it like this: if the bad ones are trying to like eliminate religion or trying to like make people do things that are like satanic, it makes me think then there is God, like God is real, like my belief, like then there must be something there, because it almost seems like it's everything they want is like the opposite type of thing. But yeah, I agree, my faith definitely got way stronger, like just for sure, and we need that, or else like I think we would go crazy like being awake, or at least that sense of that. Yeah, I do definitely think there's a purpose here, and yeah.
I think the same happened to both of us, didn't it, Cam? When we sort of woke up, we realised that there is more out there, and then we got more in touch with like spirituality, which is was a path that we're at the start of, but we're going down it now, like trying to learn about it and understand it a bit more. But I think it's a nice path, spirituality.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
It's not self-rewarding, right? Sort of kind of on this subject. Did you guys see what happened at the Grammys?
Oh, actually, someone told me about what happened with Sam Smith, and I'm like, I don't even want to watch it, because I actually avoid a lot of these things, because I'm like, what if it's just like subconsciously, and that's the thing. I think that's the reason why a lot of people have trouble with religion, because they think that basically religion is completely goes against like what our society does. So like our religion would not, or at least my belief, would not be okay with what's being done at the Grammys, would not be okay with the society we live in. Um and actually I think that's also why people struggle, because they think religion is so restrictive, because a lot of religion is going against this mainstream society.
The norm, which is like, because we can see quite clearly identify that Hollywood and fame is all pretty much evil. That's one thing I've sort of discovered, is Hollywood is sort of the definition of evil in quite a few different ways. But I think it goes a lot deeper than I realize anyway. But celebrities and fame and all of this crap, the Kardashians, that's the new religion. And if it is evil and if it is satanic, then that's what people are worshipping. That's what you watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians is going to do to you, is you're technically tuning into whatever spirit level they're on.
Yeah, and what you were saying about the Grammys, do you want to like elaborate? Like I'm assuming you're gonna say Sam Smith, right?
Yeah, basically it was a satanic ritual which took place. But when I was looking, I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole earlier. But when they were looking at it, they were saying, I think they had the weekends on, and then they did Travis. Do you know when Travis Scott did his concert and some young people died?
Oh, it's all three of them that you just mentioned. I don't get good vibes from.
Yeah, so they were showing the Sam Smith one and then comparing it to, they say it's fictional, but fictional satanic rituals. And then they were comparing, I think the weekend he was like a devil getting brought down into a crowd. No, he was an angel getting brought down into like a crowd of like devils. And then the Travis Scott one goes so fucking deep, it's ridiculous. That I think there were signs of like satanic signs all around the stage, and about, you know, I don't know how fucking deep we want to go here, but there's a lot of it around young people or children that get what's the
Yeah,
word,
I think I know what you mean.
Sacrificed.
and
Oh,
obviously at that concert there was a lot of deaths.
and
Oh shit!
that was crazy to me. And let's not forget Lil Nas X's music video.
Yeah, it's
He Lil Nas X also released some trainers with. He put blood inside the so the night trainers. He put blood inside. Do you know the
real?
Air Max bubble?
Is it real?
Yeah,
Like,
he
did
put
they?
his own blood in it. Yeah, and sold them.
Ugh. What is going on?
so yeah, that's why I'm no longer calling myself an atheist, because that shit is there's like something obviously going on there.
Lord. Oh my gosh.
It's all in plain sight as well, which is so fucked up.
Yeah, and if their songs come on, I just scroll. I'm like, I don't even listen. No. Like oh my gosh. And no one's stopping them, but yet we're the problem. We're the problem.
Did you watch the Grammys thing, Cam?
I watched it. Well, I didn't like sit and watch the Grammys. I watched the Sam Smith snippet.
All those three performances you talk about, were they all at the Grammys?
No, I think what
The
the
Weeknd.
weekend was just a weekend concert, and obviously Travis Scott's was his whatever it's called, his concert thing.
All right. Was it when everyone got crushed?
Yeah, that one.
All right.
But you just
So
have to
fucked
look
up.
into it. It's one of the things where you Google it as well, and there's not much information on it on Google, but obviously it's restricted somehow. Yeah. Shall we call it there, guys, or is there any more talking points?
I think we kind of like summed it up, just trying our best to like be firm with our opinions, really think about what we're doing. And I guess I would also argue, now that we mention it, like avoid these mainstream things, or at least I try to do it, because yeah. Wow. Yeah, what you mentioned. Oh my gosh.
I guess you just need to understand the people that you're worshipping, in a sense, because people do worship these celebrities and they don't actually know them. They just know the sort of art that they produce. But you need to actually, I think you need to just look into these people a little bit more and
Yeah.
actually identify who you're worshipping
Mm-hmm.
and what their values are. Yeah. All right, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been good.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you. It was a good time.
Thanks for coming on.
All right. See you later.
All right. See you later. Bye, guys.